Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of GnWC Weekly. It is Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. We're doing this on Wednesday, July 27th, and it's just after CWC on the WWE Network. And I'm the Duke, and I am joined by my good buddy.
I'm Diane Sawyer. Those stories and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
You didn't even tell me what the stories were.
Tick, 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 tick.
Boom.
I don't think there's a boom in 60 Minutes.
Oh, good point.
I don't know. It's been on the air like
isn't it more like
years.
tick, 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 tick?
Yeah, you're right. It's a fast tick.
Yeah.
My bad. You want to start it over? Start over.
Yeah, let's start over.
All right.
Hello. No, we're not doing it. Anyway, that's Larry. I'm Duke. And we're just going to get the ball rolling. Larry, do we have any news and notes, or do we just have too much to cover?
Nah, I have a little bit of news and notes. There's like a transitional period right now in wrestling where they're doing the new era stuff.
Yep.
And then, like, I'm not watching TNA, so I'm not reading TNA news. And then Ring of Honor has just kind of been Ring of Honor, a show to show. They're building up to their next big event.
Yep.
But a couple news and notes in the WWE world, if I may.
Go ahead.
We saw on SmackDown Live, Shelton Benjamin is returning to Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
Rhino return. Kurt Hawkins.
No, not Raw. SmackDown.
I said SmackDown, didn't I?
No, you said Monday Night Raw.
I know, I said SmackDown.
Yeah, he totally said.
I'm looking at my notes. It says Raw.
Yeah.
So I just said Raw. You're lucky I didn't say the word after it. But it's my Google browser. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Kurt Hawkins is also coming back to SmackDown. So I hope his cane comes back as well. I don't know what that was about, but he had a cane. Jinder Mahal is coming back to Raw.
Okay.
And of those being spoken of, but not being spoken of, confirmed but not confirmed kind of deal, Melina, Tommy Dreamer, MVP, and Carlito. So
interesting.
So I'm actually kind of glad that they left the draft, and this speaks volumes for how much I enjoyed it, where they left the draft just drafting the people they had. They didn't do anything gimmicky, like we kind of threw it in there for fun, like they'll draft Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Sergeant Slaughter or guys that we haven't seen in 20 years.
Steve Blackman.
Yes. Hey. That's stealing my gimmick. I'm going to tweet
gimmick
Taz
infringement.
right now. I'm tweeting Taz right now about that.
Gimmick infringement.
Yeah. So they left it legitimate, and they didn't make it corny, and they didn't add all these guys that you haven't seen in 20 years just to make it like shocking.
Right.
They made it shocking by drafting NXT people that they told you they were going to draft from, but not who they were going to draft. That was your shock. That was your surprise. And that's why it was pretty good. So now here's the influx of now we have free agents. We have guys that want to come back in the fold, guys that we're going to rehire, and then we're just going to kind of piecemeal them in week by week. And that's entertaining as well. It brings you back to the Monday Night Wars and like who's going to show up on what program. If somebody leaves WWE, they're going to show up on Nitro. If they leave Nitro, they might show up on WWE. It was a fun time, and it's certainly made for interesting TV, must-see TV. Waiting for those debuts and those returns. You had Eddie Guerrero and the guy we can't name, and Saturn, and the other guy sitting ringside, Blanco, sitting ringside at Raw just one day. You had, Chris Jericho making that long-awaited debut with the countdown clock. I hope there's stuff like that on the horizon where they'll just bring these guys in. But you know what? In the information age, the new era age, or just the new era, can't be as shocking because everything's all over the place with your Twitter and your Facebook and your MTV. It's just in your face. And they'll most likely promote stuff more than try to keep it a secret, right? You kind of agree with that?
I think some of it will be a surprise, and it'll probably be more along the lines of the Rhino type stuff, where it's someone that's not necessarily going to get a big pop based on a build, but someone that's going to get a little bit of a pop because, whoa, where's he coming from?
Oh, the situation they're in, the gore. Like,
right.
All of a sudden, Rhino's there for the gore, and the crowd just knows it, and they just erupt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Stuff like that. So
as opposed to like if Shelton Benjamin shows up, it's like Shelton Benjamin wasn't known for a specific move. Shelton Benjamin was known for just being everywhere at once. Just being unbelievably athletic. So So it makes sense to build him up more. Yeah,
So,
so it's pretty cool.
well, now
I like
where's
it.
Jack Swagger? Is he on Raw?
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on, I got it
Was
right
he in
here.
the? Yeah, I think he's on Raw.
Yeah, yeah, he was
So,
24th pick for Raw.
so the only like misdirection thing I see in debuts and stuff is that Rusev calls out an American, and it's Jack Swagger and Mark Henry in the back, kind of like talking things over, and out comes Kurt Angle. I mean, that's kind of like a dream scenario that may or may not happen, but
Yeah,
that would be like a one situation where you could not announce somebody that big in star caliber, and then like do like the swerve and then have him debut and shock some people, you know?
yeah, and quick fantasy booking, Rusev just gets out of the ring and like Rusev's not scared of anybody, but then Kurt Angle shows up and Rusev's like, I don't want any part of this,
He's like, I'm out.
and not in a Mojo Rawley type of way, but in a no, I'm gone. I am out. So
There are some things I don't understand about the new era and what they've done, especially with Battleground going forward. Quick thoughts on Battleground since it did happen this week. I enjoyed it, even though it wasn't one of those pay-per-views where like it's probably a pay-per-view we would have complained about 6 months ago, where like nothing happened. No titles changed hands. There was nothing shocking really. You had Mojo Rawley come out to support Zack Ryder in fending off Rusev, but they're on two different shows anyway.
yeah,
So,
so why?
you know,
Right.
there's nothing you can do continuing that storyline. I don't know. How would you have graded Battleground, and what were your quick thoughts on it?
So like you said, 6 months ago, maybe we would have been pissed, but in context, it was a great show, in my opinion.
I think so too. And then I
Yeah,
look back and I'm like, man, I would have complained about this 6 months ago.
because in and of itself, you're like, well, that's a B show for you because nothing really happened, but things really did happen. You created some, planted some seeds, and maybe the Mojo Rawley thing is planting some seeds for something down the road, and as they can figure out how to build him on SmackDown, or who knows, maybe he's going to do the tag team thing with Zach. Who knows? But then you had Zach in the Battle Royal, so what? So
Well, we'll get to
yeah,
SmackDown
we'll get to SmackDown in a
yeah.
second. But back on Battleground. Thank you. I really liked it. I mean, you did have the one big surprise, which it was sort of the obvious thing to do.
What
but
that Brock Lesnar also says, "Stupid idiot." His
yeah,
words, not mine.
yeah, Brock Lesnar. No, Bailey. It's Bailey. Was the
Well, yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I think I gave it a 98% chance that it was happening.
yeah, but after all the times where we were absolutely certain it was going to happen,
who was absolutely sure?
the IWC was absolutely
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was the guy on the other side of the fence all the time?
Larry.
All right.
Larry. And Larry
Okay.
had convinced me too, but it was.
Yeah, that's what I do.
But it had gotten to the point where it's just like, man, she fits this more than any other person, and it definitely gives the playful, friendly, happy boss side of Sasha, where she can talk smack, but she's still, she's good buddy Sasha.
Is that a meme? Is she going to be wearing some sort of plaid hat and jacket? And,
no, but she's like she's friendly boss as opposed to malicious backstabbing boss. No pun intended, considering that's part of her finisher. But anyway, so it lends to her character, and she can essentially, Sasha Banks gets to play Mercedes like herself. she just gets to be herself in her current role going into SummerSlam, which is cool. So you had the Bailey thing, then you had, everybody wanted all these other crazy things to happen, like you said, we've said before, overbooking things and things.
That's
like
the downside
so,
to predicting is you want to be the guy that calls something, and that's
that
why I kind of
right.
I went there and I said Darren Young will win, and Zack Ryder would win, and they would just flip the balance of the titles right away. And I said it could have happened, I guess, but in retrospect, you just kind of had to more times than not, it's just gonna go the way it's gonna go. But
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for Rusev to lose that night,
right.
but
But to make
in
a
the context
prediction
of
and
what you were saying,
yeah,
it did sort of make sense, and it is calling it to call it type thing. So.
yeah, because they're making, and this is my downside on Battleground. If there really was one, I think it's more enjoyable Battleground because Dean Ambrose went in the champion and came out the champion.
Yeah.
Than if everything was the same and it was Roman Reigns going in the champion and coming out the champion.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference. But the one downside I have, and it's the reason why I said that I went on the limb and said Darren Young was gonna win and Zack Ryder were gonna win, is because they made this big deal, a 20+ minute segment with Vince McMahon about family and competition and fighting it out and killing each other or whatever horrific term he used for them.
Slitting each other's throats.
Slitting each other's throats. I knew it was something.
I don't even what? Okay, go ahead.
I knew it was something.
Just
but they made a big deal
violent.
about that. They've made a big deal about competing. And then they're out ringside. Stephanie, Mick, Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon are all there ringside, drawing attention away from the good athletes in the ring, putting on a hell of a show, jumping around, making comment, gasping, jumping out of their chairs. And I'm sure they're not that distracting, but they're out there. But they were out there for no reason. So what's this whole thing about? We want these titles. We want all the titles on our show. We want to be the better show. And then they put them in a situation to be out there to basically maybe even dictate the course of the match. Something happening, Stephanie McMahon pulling the referee out of the ring or something. And nothing happens except Shane McMahon runs around the ring acting like he's a 12-year-old and always doing that showboating, cocky, big brother. Is he big brother or little brother? Whatever.
Big brother.
But that whole like immature sibling rivalry kind of taunting. It's like, well, all right. They were out there. I guess that's a thing, but it's the reason why I picked the titles to switch, because I thought there would have been more of, hey, if we're going to compete, and this is going to be one of the last times it's going to be Raw versus SmackDown in the ring until next month, but then like 2 months after that, then it should have been something,
Yeah.
Did you think something was going to happen at the end, especially when they were out there?
Yeah. I didn't understand, but that's we'll get to that again in a second, unfortunately. I didn't understand. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this and then repeat myself in a little bit. I didn't understand the brand that's supposed to be all about the superstars having to get the management over. Like, I don't know if that's intentional shades of gray or what, but it doesn't come across as shades of gray. It comes across as you're doing the opposite of what you say.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a second.
And I'm going to transition to Raw right now. So
okay, go ahead.
Okay. Last thing on Battleground that I did write down that I did want to just say is that we had them out there to take the focus away, and they did nothing. But it was kind of a good thing because no one really wants screw job endings in the end.
Sure.
We're all going to be there and calling it, be like, I call this guy comes out and interrupts the match. I call a ref, whatever. But it was nice that they did all that to not do something. But then it's like, why did they even do it at all? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Hang on. I got one more thing for Battleground. So the most controversial thing at Battleground was not the ending to the Miz and Darren Young. It was that quick little zinger from Randy Orton that seemed like it was breaking kayfabe.
That was awesome. It's scripted.
Guess who scripted it?
Paul Heyman.
Chris Jericho.
Oh, well. I would
Jericho basically wrote the whole segment based on what he said on his podcast today. That's pretty cool.
He would have been last on my list, just the way he reacted to that.
I know.
He reacted like genuine, and he was just like, oh, man, why did you say that?
Yeah. Well, that's what was so great was, like, they both played it so well where Randy was like, you know what? Let's make this look... And I don't know if it's because maybe he was slightly uncomfortable saying it or what, but but it was
so good.
like it played so well and so seemed so shoot, but they actually scripted that. Now, it's
Yeah.
probably something that didn't go through the writers' room.
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. Uh,
But still, that was kind of cool to find out that they very intentionally went out to say that, and Jericho's point on it was, come on, it's on everything. It's on Sports Center. It's on
yeah.
ESPN's talking about it. You know eh,
And I really
your
can't
local
believe
news
that
is talking about it. Why can't we talk about it?
I really can't believe that media, like TMZ short story aside, is not really running with the whole Brock Lesnar is not getting suspended by the WWE kind of stuff, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question before we get to Raw.
Well, hang on. Let me
Yeah.
just super quick. I do want to hear your question, of course, because it's a lead-in, obviously. But
No, it's actually not. It's just a question
perfect.
I thought of today.
Okay, but I will say to sort of throw in on what you just said about the media not jumping on it. I think that is a testament to the relationships that WWE has built with people, that they're not going to run them down over someone doing something, quote unquote, outside of WWE, and them not doing anything about it because, the Today Show, they're not going to bring it up because guess what? John Cena's on the Today Show, and stuff like that. So, anyway, just throwing that out there.
So I was watching Impact Wrestling. I'm really trying to keep up. I'm trying to get caught up so that when we do this stuff, I can kind of throw out,
Sure,
the best of the best stuff that happens in the week. Almost there. But so something happened and it caught my eye and it made me think of this question for you: is there like a kind of match or a specialty match that you like, but you're like, the fans aren't into it, but the match is interesting, the match is unique, the match is kind of realistic in a point, but like the fans just don't take to it and it's just a dud, but you like it anyway? Is there a kind of match that you feel that way?
I don't know that I've seen a lot of these, but just the sort of the idea of it, and I guess how it was done originally would be strap matches.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Not where you touch all four corners, but where it's just a weapon.
But yeah, where it's just it's
But then they made it touch all four corners.
Right. It's essentially a weapon, and there's you're not getting away from me, and you get to see guys be really creative and use
Greg Valentine
use
versus Roddy Piper at Starrcade '85.
Sure.
It might not have been '85. It might have been Starrcade '84 or something.
Yeah, but I mean, Piper was known for having amazing strap matches.
I think that was a dog collar match, actually. Maybe not
thing,
a strap match,
but essentially the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just.
But yeah, just the strap or chain matches. But yeah, of course, and in today's era, obviously, part of the reason that doesn't get over with the crowd is the whole four corners thing, which is just stupid and unbelievable. And
you ready for this? This is how every single one of them ends. Bad guy has good guy like hanging on his back. Bad guy goes around and starts touching all the corners. Well, the good guy flails his arm back and touches all the corners with him. Then they get to the last post. Bad guy notices, they fight, they punch. Good guy does something, touch the last corner, he wins. That's how every single one of them goes.
It's always something. Just it's such an awful gimmick at that point.
Do you know who would be the best dog collar wrestler, or strap match wrestler, whatever you want to call it?
No, what you got?
Bo Dallas, the Bo Train. He just goes around, just touches all the corners. It's over right away.
It's done.
Here's my answer to this question that
All
I
right,
made.
go ahead.
TNA's King of the Mountain match. Are you familiar with the rules?
So I feel like I've heard the finish of this match before, but I don't remember it.
There's been a lot of them. There's been about 5 in 2016 because they have a title created for it that doesn't always get defended in this type of match, but sometimes does. So the goal is however many wrestlers there are, normally like 5, I would think. They fight. It's like a 5-way, 4-way, whatever. How many wrestlers are in it? Every man for himself. First, you have to pin or make an opponent submit. Then you're like eligible to win the match. The guy you pin or make submit goes into a penalty box for a couple minutes. So he's out of the equation. There's one less guy you have to deal with. At the time you're eligible, you have to go retrieve the title outside. That's, the referee's just holding. And then climb a ladder and hang it on top. Instead of pulling it off like a regular ladder match, you got to put it up. But it's unique because you got to qualify by pinning or making somebody submit first. You can eliminate people for a certain period of time by doing that, sending them to the penalty box. And then you got to go up the ladder to put it in. It's not overall entertaining, but it's kind of unique and kind of cool.
Yeah, because that's a lot of stuff for people to digest, but I like the concept.
And it's corny because it's like a penalty box in wrestling. That's stupid. Well, you're kind of eliminating your competition. It kind of makes sense a little bit and helps you. But then it is corny and it's TNA, so it's even worse to people.
Well, and the big corny factor is, why would a heel even go to the penalty box? So it's like you need all baby face. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would a heel care about the rules?
If you're really that much of an animal, why would you, even roll out of the ring and walk into the penalty box and lock yourself? But it's cool because sometimes there's two dudes in the penalty box and they're just fighting for 3 minutes.
Right, which,
so that's pretty cool.
It is cool. But, I mean, I like it in concept. It breaks a lot of it. Wrestling itself breaks the rules of that match. And so if people start adhering to the rules of that match, they're breaking the rules of wrestling.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But let's talk about Monday Night Raw.
All right, let's do it.
Or the introduction to the new era, as that's what they're calling it, right?
Sure.
So, all right. So
we're actually in the new era. We're not just saying it over and over again.
No, we're actually in it now. It officially started Monday. And I think both shows hit it out of the park. Really, I think they were both good. You can kind of make gripes about everything any week anyway. So there are gripes to be made. But first of all, how many times have you heard me admit to this on the show? As big of a fan as I am of this type of wrestling, I enjoyed a women's division match in the WWE. Isn't that unheard of?
Well, it's unheard of because they weren't given any time.
Sasha versus Charlotte was the best women's match I may have ever seen in the WWE.
Like main roster WWE, or do you think it even outperforms?
I don't know if
matches?
I don't think it did. I don't think it outperformed Sasha Bailey, but it's as good as anything in the main roster ever had.
Oh, sure.
Lita, Trish back in the day, but wrestling was different then.
Sure.
I don't even know if that would hold up in today's, but it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
Just the whole emotion of it and the whole Eddie Guerrero spot. And here's why I like the Eddie Guerrero spot so much.
Did you see that message I sent you, by the way?
Yeah, I just saw it actually.
How cool is that? How cool is that?
Now,
it's side by side. That's pretty good.
Remember when we did the Anouk thing? And I wrote a couple articles?
Sure.
The day I had Sasha Banks winning the title, she pulled the Eddie Guerrero stunt. I wrote that down.
Oh, did you?
I did. It's still on there.
Oh, we'll have to go back and look at it.
I
you know what? I will. I promise. I will include that in the video.
Okay.
Post production. Yep.
Now I had it flipped and I had it on wrong events. I had Sasha winning the title from Nikki Bella first.
Yeah, of course. Right.
And then
which made sense, honestly.
Then I had Charlotte winning it at WrestleMania, but when I had Sasha winning it against Nikki Bella, she totally embraced Eddie Guerrero to where she started using the frog splash. She did the whole title
she's
thing.
Done.
The lie, cheat, and steal. I mean, I even went so far as to even put like Becky and Natalya. I think Becky and Natalya in like the in between Charlotte. Like I did everything like so good, but just so reversed. Like everything was there.
Sure.
But, I mean, I was wrong on the women's Royal Rumble, but still.
But still, I mean, just making that call, that's pretty cool. Because I think people, expected a lot of references to Eddie, but not something just so like perfect.
Well, one of the main reasons I did it was because I think Monday Night Raw or SmackDown the next week was in Texas.
Oh, and so you thought, it's coming up.
And
soon.
I put a little thing in there like Vicky Guerrero would meet her face to face and be like, look like she was upset that she did that, and then kind of just embrace it. But
Sure.
yeah, because it was in Texas, it was kind of near El Paso, but whatever. That's all I remember about it. But that was a good match. I
That's
like how
pretty
they,
cool.
yeah, it was a good match. The new era seems like something the WWE is doing with like the catchphrase, like, "Hey fans, we've listened to what you've been saying and what you've wanted 1 or 2 years ago, and now we're delivering." So it's kind of weird. But Finn Balor, I mean, they pushed him through the roof first day. You probably have something to say about that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were going to say something else. Sorry about that.
No, I have something to say, but I know you
Yeah,
probably want to talk
yeah.
about Finn. So yeah.
I was extremely surprised, but I mean, if you're going to make a statement that we're doing something different, that's pretty different. Not just having the guy come in and win a debut match, but having him win two of the most high profile matches you could win, period, outside of actually winning the big championship in your debut. I mean,
And,
seriously. I mean, like,
sorry about your luck, Roman Reigns. You've been pinned 2 days in a row.
yeah, but I mean,
He's over. Now
let's,
he's going to be the sympathetic guy again because
but
they've been.
but let me, and this isn't to be, terse or anything, but let's be honest here. The Shield has had an amazing run.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt about that.
and we saw that at Battleground. It was a good main event, and we saw that. While I think the whole quote unquote pushing Roman down our throats, which I still hate that statement, but I think that whole thing eclipses the fact in a lot of people's minds that all of the Shield had a great run, and maybe the suspension played into Dean finally getting pushed to the top, maybe, but maybe it didn't. So
I think the plans worked out the way they were supposed to work. I don't know if the Battleground ending was the end result in the pencil writing pre-suspension.
pre-suspension, okay,
But I think it went all the way it was supposed to go. Because how could you not, when you look back at it since they've done it, how could you not think that they planned for the Shield to all have the title on the same day, and then to all fight each other the next event?
right?
I mean, and the only way you can do that is if Dean Ambrose wins that match, and if Roman doesn't get suspended, it still has to play out that way. So I don't think this suspension
and it could have even played out to where and maybe that happened a month before it was supposed to. Like
right.
maybe Dean was supposed to win at Money in the Bank, but then all three of them winning or all three of them having the title was actually supposed to happen at Battleground.
Well, if
but
you
they
think
had
of
to
it
they had to accelerate the timeline, obviously.
Well, add this into the mix. They let Roman do the pay-per-view knowing he failed the drug test. So they put him in the position to lose the title instead of not being there and not vacating the title. So they had him in the event as the champion, then Seth won, then Dean won.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the suspension timed in such a way where he was able to wrestle Battleground when he came back, and thus Dean going over as well. So, I mean, thus them three wrestling that match for the first time as well. So I think everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And the only thing I just don't like right now is how they're pinning the whole Raw doesn't have a title because of you, Roman, even though they made a title.
Yeah.
And then Roman loses again, and then they do it. Did they do an interview with Roman after the match?
They just did a quick thing. Who was it?
Roman,
Jojo,
you lost.
Jojo.
Yeah.
Jojo did the quick thing with Roman, and Roman just put over Finn, which was cool.
That's right. That was opposite of what I thought he was going to say.
Yeah, that was extremely. And everybody's like, God, why can't he just be a heel? But that was actually, to me, that was Joe Anoa'i. That wasn't like he came across absolutely genuine in that to me. And I'm not just trying to be a Roman mark because I'm not really a Roman mark. You can go back and listen to our other episodes, and you should. But he came across as a genuine competitor, like he was walking off the football field back in his Georgia Tech days. Like that's how he came across in that interview, and it was good. I liked it. So
I liked it too. It wasn't what I thought he was going to say, and I liked it. Now that I'm thinking back at it, I'm like, man, they're really just setting him up to be like the, Raw is not succeeding because of you, and then he's got to overcome something else, or at least I'm just putting that in my mind right now. And
you're not the only person saying stuff like that, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, but here's one of the best things on Raw. Ready?
Go
for this. Braun Strowman. I don't care what ham and egger they put in the ring that looks like Tweety Bird, as Michael Cole said. It was probably one of the funniest things he's ever said.
Yep.
Why couldn't Braun Strowman be brought into WWE this way?
Like that.
Instead of a way where he's just a guy who never gets knocked off his feet.
Right.
He was fast. He was powerful.
Yep.
I've never seen that in him.
It was great. It was,
and his music. It's just like Braun.
I love it. I will mark out for that music every time I hear it.
That was just great. I mean, oh man, I just how bad did they fail the Wyatt family?
Yeah, and then Nia's what was I saying?
Squash match.
Thank you.
Nia's
squash match wasn't, it was a match against local talent. I wouldn't necessarily call it a squash match. Yes, she
picked her up.
She was
after she had her pinned and then beat her up again. That's a squash.
Okay, fair enough. But it was just, she was like extremely dominant, but it wasn't you have absolutely no chance whatsoever. I mean, the girl got in a little bit of offense as opposed to the Braun match.
Well, no, the guy punched Braun right in the face to start the match. That's offense.
Oh, well, okay, fair enough. All right, I lose. I lose this argument.
Yeah.
Larry wins again.
101-0.
I don't know about N-O. I've gotten a couple.
You can just check the archives, and you should. But how you like that? That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, we'll keep doing that.
So yeah, I mean, listen, I think they failed the Wyatt family really from the start. I think Wyatt family could have been something that really extended beyond the original 3 members to the point where they finally did bring in a 4th member of Braun Strowman. And he still wasn't the guy he was Monday night in 2 minutes, a minute and a half. It could have been so much more the Wyatt family, except just being like 1 off, 2 off, 3 off feuds that in the end they never won.
Can I just, I'm going to do this extremely fast, but I want to fantasy book something that should have happened with the Wyatt family, which was...
They should have beat up Roman Reigns.
They did that. No.
They should have won.
Well, yes, they should have.
They should have not fought him for 7 months.
Well, they should have won a lot of their feuds, but Mark Henry should have been recruited to the Wyatt family.
There's so many people we probably could just pick out of the roster. Damian Sandow should have been in the Wyatt family.
Yeah, but I'm just saying Mark Henry, because it breaks a lot of the racial stereotypes that you immediately associate with the Wyatt family, especially when they start feuding with the New Day and stuff like that. Well, maybe it breaks them, maybe it reinforces them. I don't know. People can do whatever they want to do with that. But you recruit Mark Henry, and you have a month to 2 month thing with Mark Henry, a la Daniel Bryan, but instead of Mark Henry going over the Wyatt family, he gets replaced and ousted by Braun Strowman, and the Braun Strowman we saw last night. So imagine the however many months it's been since Braun showed up, you had Mark Henry in the mix as like this enforcer for the Wyatt family. And so it was really scary when the Wyatt family shows up, because they've got the strongest man or the world's strongest man on their side. It makes them an even more imposing force, and then it makes the impact of Braun Strowman coming in later than he did even greater, because now he comes in and he offs the world's strongest man.
Now, the downside to that is if they
I just happened to look down while you were talking about them and saw Mark Henry. I'm like, man, that would have really worked.
The downside of them having Mark Henry is the fact that they may never even look at Braun Strowman and say, this is where we're going to slot him.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? It's a retrospective.
True enough.
Yeah.
But in hindsight's
Or
2020.
just
You're
put
like,
him
well,
in there with Mark Henry, and oh my God,
yeah,
who can stop these guys?
yeah.
Except Roman Reigns.
Yeah, stop. Let it go. Like, why does everyone hate Roman Reigns, but they can't stop talking about him?
You know who I
Come
can't stop talking
on.
about?
Yeah, go ahead.
The Miz. We're moving on to SmackDown, by the way.
All right, good.
And we'll compare the
Raw
two
was
after.
quite good, and we'll compare afterward.
Yeah, we'll compare afterwards.
We'll
highlight.
I can say it
SmackDown.
in like one or two sentences. So go ahead.
How can you have an Intercontinental Champion? And I said this last week, maybe the week before, whatever. I've said it like 18 weeks in a row, and I'm going to continue the tradition. How can you put the Intercontinental Championship on Miz, who, by the way, is the only other champion in this brand, and you have him lose all the time to put over other feuds and other talent? He lost back-to-back matches with Dean Ambrose. Now, he was never going to win those matches, but why was he even in the match in the first place, except to reinforce Dean as a champion while degrading your other champion? Now, Randy Orton hasn't wrestled in 26 months or whatever it was, and he goes over on The Miz, your Intercontinental Champion, non-title match. Just, Duke, explain it to me. Why? And it's not a Miz thing. It's an Intercontinental title thing.
I don't get it. It's, they devalue that title so much, and every time it rears its ugly little head into relevance again, they do something to just completely, like the beginning of Miz's run was fantastic.
Yeah,
and now
he was beating all the top superstars.
Exactly.
Top superstars.
And now it's it's literally been in the past month that he was off TV, which that's fine, but
he was doing other things, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. And they still kept reminding you that he was the champ and stuff, which was cool.
They put in promos, and he'd record promos,
which is exactly how you should do that. That's fine. But then he comes back, and has he won a match yet? Besides walking out on matches, which he beat
Darren Young.
Where?
Before
right.
No, and by the way, I'm jumping down your throat on that because I forgot about it as well when I was talking about.
No, he didn't beat Darren Young on Sunday. That was, if you look on WWE.com, that was a double disqualification.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, that screwjob ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Battleground rant.
That was the worst of Battleground, easily, far and away.
So Darren,
even though Natty and Becky made no sense, that was the worst of Battleground.
So, Natty and Becky was Natty and Becky. I saw it the last 4 weeks on WWE TV.
Yeah,
I didn't have to have the network.
Unnecessary 50-50 booking. Just end the feud.
And then again on SmackDown, but we'll touch that in a second.
Yeah.
But, all right, let me go back to Battleground for a second now that we're mentioning The Miz. So Bob Backlund gets involved with Maurice. Maurice then falls down to fake an injury, I guess, like she's done in other matches where The Miz has carried her in the back. And then, but when at the time she falls down, Backlund's nowhere near her. The ref, The Miz, and Darren Young are looking at them, and she falls down out of nowhere. It was probably like the worst, most awkward, unnecessary spot in wrestling history. Like, how bad was that?
I feel like what happens there is they have an extremely, for some reason, limited amount of time, and someone gives them a time cue, and people are out of position, and they just roll with it, and then no one in the match, except maybe The Miz, who was in the worst position to do anything about it, no one around the match knows how to recover the fact that everyone's out of position. And
I kind of feel like Miz was supposed to carry Maurice to the back, and Backlund was supposed to stop them then.
Maybe. But he was absolutely the furthest away from everything when it went down. So I don't know if Backlund was early. I don't know what happened, but something like there was obviously a miscue, and then it was cascading. Everybody miscued after that, and nothing made sense. And like the DQ was for Miz putting his hands on Backlund, which makes no sense.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Then you had that ending where that's why I even forgot about it. I just assumed The Miz won because I just retconned it out of my mind. It was just made no sense. There was no DQ anywhere to be found, and they didn't even announce what it was. The bell just rang.
Well, I'm pretty sure they
and I'm
knew.
Like, well, maybe it
I'm
was
pretty sure they knew what
but...
it was supposed to be, but we didn't get that because it's just like we can't.
Like maybe it was a double count out, but I didn't see anything that could have been a disqualification or whatever.
No,
But,
I mean Miz had only been out of the ring for like 3 seconds. So
Bob Backlund's like your sober Ric Flair. He's like so like you're just worried whenever he's around that he's just gonna do something like embarrassing. Like
and people find that endearing a lot of times, but it's endearing when it's backstage. It's not that good when it's right in the middle of all the action for a match, and it just throws everything off. So,
and it takes attention.
And again,
away
maybe
from
it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't him.
No, I'm not saying it was or wasn't, but it's in everything involving Bob Backlund, it's always like, this guy.
It's a mess.
It's just a mess, and we're definitely not since like 1980s. We're definitely not a Bob Backlund household here, so he can do no good in our eyes anyway. So it's kind of jaded, but. Let's go back to SmackDown now that I finished that rant.
Sure.
We don't know what's going to go on Intercontinental Champion. I just feel like they don't know how to manage their mid-card titles. They can't make the U.S. title strong and the IC title strong at the same time without something going wrong or without forgetting about one title and pushing the other. Kalisto was the champion with the U.S. title. That came down while the IC title went up with the, Zack Ryder winning it and all that. The stories around that and just how excited the fans were, then the Miz ripping it away, and then the matches he had after that. The only time the U.S. title and the IC title were like on the same level was when John Cena won and Daniel Bryan won at WrestleMania a couple years ago, and then Daniel Bryan had to relinquish the title anyway. So it's like something doesn't go right anytime they try to make those two titles relevant at the same time lately. But whatever. What was your favorite part of SmackDown?
I wasn't that thrilled with SmackDown personally, and it wasn't just because I was watching people, crap on it in a thread. I was pretty genuinely displeased with it too. But I have, I guess, the benefit of age that I can actually see reasons for it being the way it was. So, what was my least favorite or most favorite?
No, what was your favorite?
What was my favorite part? I didn't necessarily.
Dolph Ziggler won. Oh yeah, Dolph Ziggler won. That's a good one, Duke.
No, hang on.
Oh,
I was literally about to say I didn't necessarily expect Ziggler to win, and that's an interesting surprise. But I would classify that as interesting, not as necessarily my favorite thing. But I guess that match would be my favorite thing. So there.
I kind of ruled out AJ and Cena. I said they were going to take care of each other. And
right. I expected that too.
Apollo Crews and Corbin, because I always like your idea that they should be feuding. So I kind of ruled them out too. Then I'm like, it's Bray versus Dolph Ziggler. Oh, it's Dolph Ziggler, so Bray's going to win. And I'm like, all right, now I'm genuinely invested in this. I'm like, I'm going to give Bray a shot.
Yeah.
They're going to get the one time I'm not rooting for Dolph Ziggler. I'm like, I finally want to see Bray get a shot. Dolph Ziggler wins. What? Like, I should be happy.
Oh! I actually do have a favorite thing. I do have a favorite thing. I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Finish your thought. Sorry.
I should be marking out right now for Dolph Ziggler, but God, Bray Wyatt, can't they do something with him, please? Like, this was his time to forget about all that other stuff they've tried to do with him. He's on SmackDown. He's separated from Braun Strowman. He doesn't have his full family with him. He's alone in the match. I don't even know if Eric Rowan was out there. And they still didn't put him over to fight Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam. Ziggler somehow won it. And I should be thrilled. I should be busting out all my Dolph Ziggler t-shirts in my closet. But I'm just like, why? Why? What's with Bray Wyatt that they can't slot him in like almost the perfect spot for him right now? But I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So I'm legitimately saying this. This is not ironic. This is not sarcastic. I'm serious. My favorite part of SmackDown was Eva Marie's voiced over entrance.
Eva Marie's voiceover
I
entrance is probably the
absolutely-
longest paragraph on my notes right now.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
I just loved it. I think it completely gets over. I think they have fully embraced the fact that Eva will never be fully embraced by the audience, or at least right now she's not, and they have turned her. I mean, it started in NXT. It happened at WrestleMania. She is a comedy heel, and they are running with that, and I like it. I like it.
So you want my little soliloquy on her entrance?
Ready, go.
All right, here we go. I got to find that. All right. So despite Becky Lynch's continuing to be the poster child for 50-50 booking, the women on SmackDown were making things interesting.
Sure.
Until Eva Marie came out with her ridiculous introduction that was paced like an inbred brother of the Micro Machines announcer was reading the script. It was long, it was slow, it was annoying, but it worked because it was Eva Marie.
There you go. That's the point right there.
And that is not my complaint. My complaint about that whole segment was that it was just a "Hi, my name is" segment.
Yeah.
You know, you had an
The segment sucked, but
yeah, you had an opportunity for them all to mix it up. Natalya could have attacked Becky after the match, after she lost. You know, Carmella could have came down to the ring and saved Becky. Alexa could have came down to the ring to take out Carmella. And then you can have Eva Marie hit the music, come out, do a runway walk like she's coming down to the ring, and then just do a runway walk back to the locker room
while
all the girls in the ring just stop
while the guy's talking. Like the whole time, she just walks down, walks around the ring, and walks all the way back and does
while
her
like
pose,
the red lights
and then
are
it
shining
goes,
in
and
the
then
ring,
it goes to commercial. Then it makes sense.
Well, no, you have the red lights shining in the ring while the girls just stop fighting and just turn and look at her, and then you can have Alexa do the really kind of face as she's just
and then you go to commercial, right?
Right, and then you go to commercial. You at least have them mix it up. You don't have the whole "Hi, my name is," or how about this? You just do a complete package, like a promo of all the girls and what they do and what their names are and what their accomplishments are, and it comes across better than that parade of whatever where all the wrestlers staggered down the entrance ramp,
right?
Like all like within like, you know, it's like Megan's Law. It's like get 20 feet from me or whatever. You know, it's probably too harsh to say, but that's the first thing I thought of. You know, everyone's got to keep what's that restraining order? That's what I really should have said. Everyone's got to keep 20 feet from each other, and that's kind of what they were from the ring to Natalya outside the ring to Alexa like a third of the way down, Carmella, and then Eva Marie. Everyone was just spaced out. It was like perfect, but it fell flat, and it had the potential to beat. Well, it wasn't going to beat Charlotte versus Sasha, but it really would have set the tone for the women's division actually meaning something in SmackDown, I thought. And now it's just like, well, now I just realized that it's like nothing, the women's division in SmackDown. It's upsetting.
Yeah, hopefully they really, I hope they recover next week. So can we get to the comparison real quick? Or
can I talk about
else?
American Alpha for 2 seconds?
Yeah, you can. Go.
They weren't even in the Battle Royal. They're doing the whole American Alpha debuts next week stuff. Why? There's no tag team title. Why are we building this up? Why can't we have them out there now? Why?
My comparison actually answers that, I think.
Okay. Pre-Battle Royal, my pick to win the Battle Royal was Chad Gable. And then they have the Battle Royal and American Alpha's not even in it. I'm like, oh, come on. This sucks. But I'm like, I guess Apollo Crews is going to win. And then Apollo Crews wins. But as I said, Apollo Crews or Del Rio, if they were going to go with the new guy or if they were just going to go with the age-old veteran. And I gave one pick each, and then Apollo Crews win. What's your comparison?
Well, super quick. It is weird to me that you had people that you were going to hold off on, namely American Alpha. You had people you're going to hold off on, but you put them up on the apron at the beginning of the show. If you're not going to put them on the show, don't put them on the apron. I get that they're quote unquote part of the roster, and you kind of had that. You had the same, it's similar to what they did with Raw, right? They had them all on the stage or whatever. But if you're going to again, if you're going to hold off on them, like we saw everyone from NXT that was drafted to Raw, we saw them perform in the ring. Now it was only 2 people, but still, we actually saw them perform in the ring. To start the show with American Alpha on the apron when they could have been probably the most exciting part of the show, and then you don't have them in the show, I don't even like I can't finish sentences for that. How about that? Because
And don't forget,
I don't even understand the concept behind doing that. So
Alexa and Charlotte didn't wrestle either. I mean, Alexa and Carmella didn't wrestle either. Only Mojo Rawley wrestled.
yeah,
So SmackDown was far from the show that it was supposed to be.
Right.
Well, that it was predicted to be, that it was going to be the young NXT-like show.
Right.
It was really like, no, it had a good young old mix, but it's like your newest stars that Shane and Daniel harped on, that said this is going to be there's no glass ceiling, no one's going to be favored, and they weren't even on your like most important show.
Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna, it's we're judging them after one show. Who knows? American Alpha may fly out of the gate. They may announce a tag team title tournament for that show on September 11th. What was it? I forget what it was, but
Backlash.
Was it Backlash?
It's Backlash.
That doesn't sound right.
It's Backlash.
But, okay. They may do Nala Raw, but not to upstage that title. By the way, the Universal title sounds like a TV title.
Yeah.
With the shows being on the Universal networks.
Very good. There you go.
So that should have been it. And when I hear Universal title, I think Carlos Colon for some reason. I feel like back in the 80s, looking back in the rankings of the wrestling magazines, it was WWF, NWA, AWA, and whatever Carlos Colon had, and I believe he was like the Universal champion. But
who knows? So
yeah,
you ready for my comparison?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've seen, and full disclosure, I've seen some people essentially say this, but the more I look at it and the more I think back and the more I rewatch things from the shows this week, the more this rings true. And it's that Raw did everything possible to be the big show this week. No pun intended at all. But to be the premier show. And they did absolutely every single thing that people would want them to do, even completely out of the box stuff like just pushing Finn to the moon on his very first night. Not even only having Seth Rollins in the very first segment, and you don't see him the rest of the night.
Yeah, I was discussing that with my family. Didn't he walk into the office one time with Stephanie and Mick though during the show?
Oh, did he? Yeah,
because I was
yeah. I think you're right.
Because I was also saying,
but
hey,
still, he wasn't in the ring. He wasn't in the ring, and he's essentially your best wrestler on the roster. Yes, he's coming off a major injury.
I like how they have that dynamic already, where it's like okay, Seth, you're automatically in the fight. Everyone else has to fight for it.
Yeah, well, he's automatically in the fight, but it also. And they've done this since he's come back. They've put him in limited TV matches. He hasn't been on a match every single show since he's been back. And that seems it serves 2 purposes. Obviously, it makes him more special, a la the part-timers, even though he's there and he's cutting promos and stuff like that. I feel like
I've seen him a lot.
You've seen him a lot, but he hasn't wrestled every TV since he's been he didn't wrestle his first night back. He didn't wrestle his first week back. I don't think he actually was in the ring on TV. Maybe for dark matches, but not on TV. Anyway, but we saw that again with Raw. So the comparison is with Raw, they did, quote unquote, everything right by the fans. You saw the new talent. You saw guys get over on true local jobbers. You saw sort of like the old school and new era type mix where it was kind of a little bit for everybody and very, very demographic, very, very broad spectrum demographic pleasing, in my opinion. I'm just stringing words together to make them say what I want them to say. But I feel like anybody could get something out of that Raw show. Then you go to SmackDown, and comparatively, it's pretty flat. It's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's pretty flat. And where Raw really shined was, or shone, however you're supposed to say that, where one of the biggest things you had on Raw was women's wrestling, and probably like the dumpster of SmackDown was women's wrestling, especially with the intro segment. I say all that to say, what does Raw do next week?
This is Benjamin on a pole.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's on SmackDown.
I mean, but seriously, it's like Raw. Like, what do they do next week? And I'm not gonna say, make the obvious innuendo reference here, but it's like, seriously, what do they do next week to compete with that? Yes, they came out of the gate strong, but man, they have nothing to. I mean, they do, but they don't really have as much to build to because they did everything on the first night of the brand split. Whereas SmackDown, in my opinion, has nowhere to go but up. And I mean, I'm not saying they were the worst show ever, but they've got plenty of room for improvement, and they can be the show next week that people are like, oh, okay, so SmackDown was really good this week. That's what I see comparatively. The last thing, I said I could do this in a couple sentences. I'm sorry for being so wordy. But my last thought on this is, I hope that was on purpose, but that's not going to be a trend where they just ping pong back and forth which one is the good show each week, because that's not what this should be about. It should be about them actually trying to one-up each other each week. And I do suspect SmackDown, I really hope SmackDown is the stronger show next week, and not stronger but not as strong as Raw, but like actually, wow, that's as good as Raw was last week. So,
do you want to hear the smartest thing I've ever said?
Okay, go.
They should have never done it's us versus them. They should have just said, hey, we're going to make two separate companies. Good luck to both. The fans benefit. And then you don't compare Raw to SmackDown. You don't compare this champion to that champion. You don't compare this division to that division. You're going to compare eventually because everyone knows it's the same company. But why are announcers fighting over who's better? Why is JBL all of a sudden a Dean Ambrose fan because he's got the title? Now you're just like, us versus them in a competitive market that is never going to be us versus them, except for some situational matches 4 to 5 times a year.
And I want to sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that I think SmackDown, I loved SmackDown. I think SmackDown did a lot of stuff that was good. I think they did a lot of stuff that was interesting. I think they shocked people here and there. It's just, they don't have Sasha Banks to win the title. Raw does. They don't even
have the title.
They don't have Finn Balor being an unexpected surprise opponent for Seth Rollins for the new Universal title. They have Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler's a fan favorite. And people probably didn't expect him to win. People probably expected Cena or AJ Styles or Bray Wyatt like I did. People probably said, it's Ziggler, he'll never win. And he won. So they did a lot of good. They just never have had the tools that Raw did that week. It couldn't be done unless you had Dean Ambrose lose the title to who would be the most over person in SmackDown. I don't think there is anybody more over than Dean Ambrose. So Correct. You can't say like you can have Dean Ambrose lose the title to this guy and then the place would have popped. Dean Ambrose is the guy. There's no one poppier than him. I don't think so.
Except maybe Bray Wyatt, but they've already had a feud. That's the problem. That's the problem. Have feuds
all the time. Del Rio fights friggin'. Sheamus will fight Randy Orton soon in a Raw versus SmackDown match, probably. But you say stop it, then like in 3 months, I'm going to say, hey, remember that time? You're going to be like, all
Yeah,
right,
I know.
and I'm going to be like, yes, 312-0.
Whatever.
And, whatever.
It's not
But,
an O.
It's like
I'm going to put
it's
that on a
N1.
T-shirt.
I think I conceded to something you said once, but all right, once a week. But all right, but they're creating competition between the brands and not having actually physical competition between the brands.
Right.
It's just like perception competition.
Well,
and it's stupid.
And there are two big negatives that I've seen fairly universally in people's comments about SmackDown, and they're completely valid. And I didn't touch on them before, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to belabor the point on them, but the two big things I saw were: you say this is supposed to be about the superstars and not about management. Management was on the show more on SmackDown than they were on Raw, and SmackDown is the shorter show. So not only did it spend more proportionate time, it spent more actual time putting over the management instead, and one of the management doing his signature crowd chant, which didn't do anything to build the wrestlers on that show. It just said, "Hey, I'm still more over than my crowd chant is still more over than everybody on this show."
Right, and I can agree to that because at the end of the show, they had Dean Ambrose come out. Their top guy actually came out to the ring, as opposed to Raw. He didn't come out to do face to face with Finn Balor, but Dean Ambrose came to the ring. Him and Dolph Ziggler pandered, shook hands or whatever, stood face to face, and then you had the music hit for Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, and they came out as well.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So you made it.
But here,
so that's.
I
hang
want to
on.
say this. I want to say this.
Go.
Yep.
Go.
That. To me, the schooling and the education I have, and the career I once almost had, it seems like SmackDown's one of their own, like, only live shows that they've ever had. Maybe they've had a stall for time a little bit to end the show. It wasn't like Raw when they can go off the air whenever they go off the air in between a certain time frame. It's not like a pay-per-view where they got, they have however much time they need. It kind of seems like they were early, and then they had to do a lot of pandering after the fact, which led to a little bit more of Shane and Daniel Bryan than probably was planned. Maybe when SmackDown went off the air, that would have happened.
Entirely possible, and it seems like that is exactly the case. But man, it just seems like you could have had. It seems like you could have had a better backup plan than. All right, this is going to be like. It just seems like someone should have been like, shouldn't we have a different backup plan than you guys going out, since the story of this whole thing is that it's about the wrestlers and not about the management, and you guys had a longer promo than Stephanie at the beginning of the show.
I'm not arguing against that.
Yeah.
But
I just feel like there needed to be someone to say that. So anyway, that was one negative. The other was JBL. And
I actually didn't notice him. Oh, well, the only thing I noticed was he kept calling Kalisto Sin Cara.
Sure, there's
but
that.
I think that was a nod to
and he wasn't and he wasn't running down someone else on the commentary team, so that made him better than when he was always running down Byron. However, it consistently across the board, most people are just like, JBL's got to go. He's just got to go.
I know he wasn't as condescending. Like, he didn't clash with Morrow as much as King did.
But he did, yeah. But King, like, it's heel Lawler, and that was okay. Even though, it got a little long in the tooth, and he needed to calm it down.
Right, it's a guy people actually like compared to a guy people actually don't like. So.
Sure, but there's but the thing that I saw a lot with JBL is it sounds like he's intentionally talking over Morrow, like he thinks he's the veteran, and he feels entitled to do so, and Morrow is barely able to call the match. All he gets to do is put in his pop culture references, and he's not getting as much of the match.
You say that, I do think that there was sometimes Morrow was doing his pop culture reference, and then JBL just started talking, and he didn't, like, he was in the middle of setting it up. Like, I think he tried to do the educated feet thing once.
Yeah.
And he was like whoever And then all of a sudden JBL started talking before he got to the educated feet line.
Right. And then
And I don't notice
the most
Otunga.
egregious, yeah, exactly. The most which is a problem also, but the most egregious thing or the most noticeable time that JBL spoke over Morrow was at the very end of the show where he spoke. It was literally like JBL had to get the last word, and he did because they cut him off mid-sentence. So it was so that those are the two big negatives, and I'm not going to run them into the ground, but they are valid negatives that hopefully they pay attention to what people are saying, and they don't make those same mistakes over and over. And to me, it was a mistake moving JBL to, like, it wasn't a mistake taking JBL off of Raw. It was a mistake putting him on SmackDown. And I'm not saying he doesn't need a job in WWE. I'm just saying he needs a different job than being on the commentary desk, in my opinion. So I think he can do things for the company besides be a guy that people hate for the wrong reasons. Like, I don't hate him because he's a heel. I hate him because he's distracting in the worst way possible on the commentary team. So,
and it's weird because I thought Michael Cole was actually really good this week,
and
like
I feel like
a lot better. And
I feel like that
speaks
to JBL not
leaving.
being there. Yeah,
and maybe that's what it is. Maybe I was just like, well, maybe they're just not. Well, no, because Corey gave it to Byron Saxton too.
Yeah,
but we like Corey Graves, so it's funny.
Yeah, but
he
does it in a lighthearted way, and he does it tongue in cheek as opposed to like screaming him down. It is delivered in a different way.
JBL does it sometimes where I laugh too.
Sure,
like, I wish you would go away, Byron. Like stuff like that, and I'm just like,
which that's fine.
No
but it's when he starts shouting him down and stuff that it's just like, man, you're taking it too far, and I am belaboring this point, but I don't hate JBL, but I think the reason why he was able to, and he was able to do it last night, and he was able to do it on Raw so long, is because JBL is formerly one of the boys. So even though he's part of the commentary team, it's like JBL is a guest commentator every time he steps to the desk because he's a former world champion. He's like, quote unquote, a locker room leader, even though most of the hazing things you hear are about him. So yeah, I feel like he has a position based on some of his history with the company that is detrimental to the product, and you see that in how much the product was improved by not having him there on Raw, in my opinion, and then how much it seemed the product was diminished by having him there on SmackDown. So, again, don't hate the guy. I just don't think he needs to be on commentary. I think he could contribute in a plethora of other. I actually love Legends with JBL. I think it's a great show. I wish it would. It's a lot like other things on the network where it's just like, here's an episode. 3 months later, here's an episode. 3 months later, here's stuff like that. But I like it when he does it, and I feel like you could use him in that role more. And they did the Undertaker panel where he anchored that, and it was really good. I don't know. I feel like that's where you could do that more. Maybe instead of Cole having the WWE.com interview, you have JBL do it because he's a good interviewer. He's a great interviewer. So, yeah.
The one thing that brings down SmackDown in my eyes is titles, championships.
Sure.
You can't have. I mean, I know it's only a 2-hour show, but for how many years was Raw a 2-hour show with like 32 titles?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like watered to the point of watered down with titles, but
right.
But still,
and then they did the brand split, and they still had multiple titles,
but still something for people to fight for. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So what good is the tag team division? What good is the women's division? And what good is your mid card division if your champion is just putting over other people and there's not any championship to be fought for or to be number one contender of? And it's 1 week sample, but for the Miz, it goes back multiple weeks. Except for the Darren Young thing, which was just a battle royal to determine it. There was no feud. So it's that's weak. And then on the Raw side, they're creating a world championship. They have the women's title, they have the U.S. title, they have the tag title, and they're creating a cruiserweight title. So you have 5 things for 3 shows, and you have 5 things for 3 hours, and you have 2 things for 2 hours on SmackDown, and 2 divisions that aren't even represented. So I think that's stupid in my eyes.
Sure.
And that's another reason why, if you're going to do an us versus them kind of thing, well, if there's never ever a chance for the tag team titles and the women's title to go to SmackDown unless you fabricate something for it to happen, like it can't happen during natural progression. You've got to script something like brand kind of stuff for it to happen. Then why even have a tag team division and women's division on SmackDown? Except that you need them for variety, but then there's got to be something they fight for. So whatever. That's the only thing I see with SmackDown that's going to keep it being the B show, is just that, they can have all the talent in the world, but if you have nothing to fight for, what good are wins and losses and feuds anyway? So that's about it with that.
Sure.
Are you happy with Samoa Joe versus Nakamura?
Oh, yeah. I think
there's really no other way that could have gone.
No, there's absolutely there's nothing else they could do. Oh, so yeah, we're on NXT now apparently. So good, because I want to talk about the star of NXT this week and someone.
Can I say it?
No, someone.
No,
that, someone.
I love her. She's my favorite.
Someone.
She's my dream woman.
Well, I wasn't going the same direction as you, so I'll let
Oh.
you. Okay, so I'm going to pitch my star of the week from NXT, and then you can pitch yours.
Oh, go ahead.
Since I was talking first, sort of. Since I
might be older, so I was probably talking
since
first.
I interrupted first. So,
By the way, are you
fair
related
enough.
to Tyson Dukes?
No, we spell it differently.
Oh,
He spells it like the Bloodsport movies. I do not.
okay.
So, anywho, the NXT star of the week, who deserves his own WWE 24 special, the legend of Buddy Murphy. Holy crap, he looked good.
All right, I need to know why, because you hate Buddy Murphy.
No, I don't.
You hate Blake and Murphy.
I hate Blake.
And Murphy.
I did hate Blake and Murphy as a tag team.
Okay, well, now
but
we
since
finally admit it,
since
we can
they
move on.
but since they've been split up, I have enjoyed what they've done with Murphy and how they've like created an actual story for him, and then Blake all of a sudden he's just here again and he's doing something else. But I really like that. I really like his look, and he seems like he's getting leaner and more like he just looks more like a contender for something. And holy cow, when he's in matches, he makes people look good. Like I saw someone make this comment, and I actually agree with it. Maybe he's making people look too good. Like he's doing that good a job.
He's Dolph Ziggling himself.
Yeah, he really is, but he's not quite as bad because he's not overselling. He's just he's performing so well that I can't wait to see him actually start winning matches and getting some sort of push. And I hope they don't put them back together. I hope eventually this is leading to them fighting each other to see who's the better.
I just don't even want
them
them to see them fight each other.
You don't just
Murphy
separate
do
them
other
completely.
things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really like I really like Buddy Murphy in the ring and what he's bringing to the table for NXT as a whole, not just him as a character, not just his look improving and everything like that. I like what he's doing to put over other guys, and I hope that gets rewarded. Similar to Alexa Bliss. So
Santana Garrett.
Yep.
Can I just tell you that she is my perfect woman? And like I mean this in all like the degrading ways in the world, but not like specific to her. If we took Dana Brooke's hair and just like everything else of Santana Garrett, that's like what I look for on Match.com. Am I wrong? That's you read my profile, right?
No, that sounds right.
Hair of Dana Brooke, the hands of the Miz, and then the everything else of Santana Garrett. Don't judge me. And that's like
so you
good,
want
right?
So just to take this slightly PG-13, you want Miz's hands on you.
I I was trying to think of a way I could make it creepy before, and I'm like, well, I got like it's obvious that I'm gonna pick Dana Brooke's hair, and then Santana Garrett's everything else. And I had another girl in there too, but I just quickly forgot. I'm like, what can make it creepy? I'm like, well, like the Mrs. Lips. No, that's too far.
That's
All
too
right,
far.
the Mrs. Hands, because he's got the manicure and everything going, probably nice and clean under the fingernails. I'm like, all right, that's probably he's probably well more manicured than like I don't know, Peyton Royce. Just saying, I don't know if she has dirty nails. I'm just throwing that out there. She might. I don't follow her on Instagram or anything. Can you Google that for me?
No, you will have
Peyton
to do it
Royce, dirty
yourself.
nails? No, you don't know what's going to come up.
Yeah, probably. Oh, speaking of nails, that brings
Big Boss Man, nails.
that brings up
Oh.
something else
Oh,
from NXT. How blown up was Nails in that tag team fight? The little guy against TM61. How freaking blown up was he from the very first slam? And I'm not hating on the guy. I'd be blown up.
first slam, he couldn't lay flat for what's his name to do the
exactly. And the guy's like, well, I'm doing it anyway. Just like it's coming, so
I'm like, why is that dude not
you better
like
flatten out?
The dude couldn't even stand up. Like okay, he might have been overselling, being hurt or whatever, but like I'm like that dude can't even stand up right now.
No, he was blown up. And full disclosure, I would most likely be blown up getting to the ring. Okay, so I'm not saying I'm better than this guy, but wow, was he blown up sky high, and I feel like it just got worse. I don't know if he broke a rib or what, but he was just messed up. It was.
Do you know who's better than Nails?
What's that?
Tony Nese.
Not Tony Nese.
Hometown boy, Tony Nese. Yeah, Tony Nese.
No, Anthony.
I'm sorry, Anthony
Robinson.
Nese. Maverick, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah. No.
One of the best.
I'm talking about Tony Nese was the guy who won.
I know who Tony Nese is. I ate dinner with him many times.
But he didn't get blown up. The other guy did.
I was saying, do you know who wasn't blown up? Do you not know how segues work?
That's not what you said. You said who was better than Nails? That's what you said.
Yeah, no, I said no, who was better than Nails, and you said he wasn't blown up. I said I didn't say he was blown up. I said he was better than Nails.
I don't know what's happening. Ready, go.
Saying Tony Nese is great.
Tony Nese was good.
Yeah, I just I have a personal thing with Tony Nese. Like he shot on my friend one time and broke his nose in front of his kids. For just like messing up a spot a little bit. Like Tony
Holy
Nese.
cow. So he's like legitimately violent.
Listen, I'm not saying this against Tony Nese. This happens in any Fed across the world. You're going to get those guys who I don't want to say entitled, but who are just better than leaps and bounds better than everyone else. And that's what Tony Nese was. He's more athletic. He was more agile. He was quick. He's just better than everyone else he was in. Those local indie Feds always have them. There's guys that are just sky high. And then there's everyone else who are like students and ticket sellers, and Tony Nese was one of those. And my buddy messed up and he just, forearmed him right in the grill, right in the nose, and broke it. And, but the dude is pretty athletic. He actually was in TNA for a while and then quit TNA because TNA wouldn't let him work a show against one of his all-time favorites, the Great Muta. TNA is like, no, you're under contract. We can't let you go wrestle that non-televised, non-DVD show. He's like, all right, well, I'm asking for my release then. And he went and he wrestled that show. And he's never been at the height of something like TNA since, but he's Evolve. He's on the CWC now. He's out there and he's a top talent. And I think that I don't know how he acts backstage or anything. I don't know how he is, but if he has no issues, I don't see this. I can't not see this guy being something of a having a spot in NXT. I mean, he's pretty good. He just does a little bit He's like AJ Styles said in his interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's like, everyone does everyone else's moves. You just got to make it special so that when somebody sees that move, they go, oh, that's AJ Styles. I feel like Tony Nese's moveset is like a little bit too smart, a little bit too intelligent. Like he puts variations on way too many moves. And I think like it doesn't work well with his opponent.
I want to back up. I want to back up to NXT based on something you just said, though.
All right, let me just finish, Tony.
Sorry. Go ahead.
How much of an injustice did they do by not removing that part of the match where the referee stopped Tony Nese on the top rope to check on the wrestler, to check on Bennett, and then let Anthony Nese continue? Did you see that part?
Yeah, I did. You're saying they should have just like used a camera cut?
Yeah, Anthony Nese is on the top rope ready to do a 450.
Yeah.
And the referee stops him to turn around to check on the wrestler that's down. Wrestler says he's okay. Ref says he's okay. And then Anthony Nese does the 450 in the end of the match. Like, how bad does that make everybody involved in that match look?
Yeah, it was a little odd. I don't know if you did that because of... I don't know. I don't know if you... I don't... Maybe there's a reason for it going forward, but that is odd. It is strange to leave that in, for sure.
It's just way too much of the referee, and especially on tape shows, the referee stopping the match to ward off the guy on offense, to tend to the guy on defense.
And where you say, go ahead, kill him.
Match, and it's what's that?
And then he's just like, go ahead, kill him.
Yeah, it's a wrestling match, right? You're supposed to win. You're supposed to beat up your opponent to the point where you can pin him or make him submit. So why in these, especially these tape shows, why are there so many spots in the match where the referee is just stopping the match to just tend to the guy getting hurt when it's not a situation where the guy's legitimately hurt? It's just for some reason they're putting those spots in matches now, and I just don't understand it. It annoys me.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good point, and I did want to just quick callback to the Santana Garrett match, and not necessarily for her, even though she sold it perfectly too, or she received the move perfectly. But what was that crazy, like Corey called it a unique suplex or something like that, but that crazy thing that wow, her name just left me. Billie Kay did out of the corner, that she basically suplexed her by grabbing her leg, and they both spun. It was I feel like that's a luchador type move, but it was really, really interesting, and like I felt like you said the whole putting your own unique spin on it, and all of a sudden that popped in my head again. I'm like, that was such a weird move that was actually really cool. Like, it seems more like a finisher to me because it's so unique looking. But yeah. Anyway, like, I would have rather seen that in the match, even though it wasn't quite as high impact as the boot. I would have rather seen that. I would rather see the boot into, like, the boot set that up. A dazed opponent gets up and she does that crazy spinning suplex thing. I think that would be cool. Now, there may be limited people she can do it to. She may need someone like Santana Garrett to actually pull it off. So maybe that's why it's not a finisher. But
Santana Garrett is pretty up there in terms of, like, I don't want to say weight because that's offensive, but she's tall, she's thick, she's got muscle tone to her. She's not a Alexa Bliss, Carmella.
Well, I don't necessarily mean by weight. I mean athleticism. I mean, like, because Santana Garrett is, I mean, she's deserving of your affection, not just on looks alone.
Yeah, I really wish she would unblock me. But we'll get to that another time.
She's unbelievably athletic, and it may be that Billie Kay can only do that to move. Billie Kay can only do that to people who can actually pull it off, like Santana Garrett. But really cool move, which, again, like I said, would be why it's not a finisher. But I would like to see that named and it be some sort of signature when she can do it to people, because it was really cool.
The flying kangaroo instead of koala.
That's awful.
By the way, a couple months we talked about this when we were talking about rosters and stuff.
Yeah.
But the thought that went into my mind after I kind of woke up from my Santana Garrett's on my TV kind of days
Sure.
was that here we have a women's match on NXT TV post draft, and it's Billie Kay versus Santana Garrett, who's not even with the company. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, if there's no Bayley and there's no Asuka, I'm like, this division's like dead. They've promoted nobody under those two. We've seen Peyton Royce, we've seen Billie Kay, but you've got to bring in like Santana Garrett to have like a good match with somebody to put somebody over.
Well,
and like your Liv Morgan's, where the hell is Athena? And
yeah,
Aaliyah's never going to be anything.
I don't know. She was good the last time we saw her. She was good in that match with Bayley, I thought.
I don't really remember. Like I nothing stood out in my mind.
We said it that week that she actually looked like significantly improved from the first time we had seen her. So
because she wasn't like she was terrible.
Yeah, but she actually she sold things. She had a lot of fire and stuff.
But let's be realistic. Where is she falling on the scale of women we want to see on TV?
Well, yeah. And the fact that she's not showing up on TV as much,
right?
I mean, Billie Kay, they even had her on SmackDown, so I feel like they're very, very high. I feel like she's the next build because why would you put her on SmackDown if you're not really going to do so? And as Billie Kay, by the way, she wasn't on SmackDown
that's right. She was
under
on
a jobber
a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah, and they talked about that on commentary. So they made a point where ever since SmackDown, she thinks she's the queen of the locker room now, and so they're building a character for her to be.
I just don't see it from
to be
her
a heel.
in the ring.
So,
like, do you?
What?
I don't see it from her in the ring. The it factor. Like, I just don't see her.
I think part of the problem,
the legacy of NXT women's division.
Like, based on what I've seen from her, like on social media and stuff, when other people post stuff and things like that, I think. And this is gonna be like sound like it's like an extremely minor thing, but it can be very major when you start talking about the it factor. I think they put too much makeup on her. Like if you see her more natural, you get
I'm not talking about looks when I say factor.
No. Hang on. But part of the it factor is your facials, is like how you emote. Like that's where a lot of the quote unquote it factor comes from people, is that people can actually connect with you because they're seeing things on your face. And I feel like they put her in so much makeup that you lose a lot of that. But I don't know. But maybe it's the fact that
I just don't even see her moves, her transitions, her like other than that one suplex and the kick. I just don't see I don't see anything but a traditional WWE 5-minute women's match out of her, based on what she brings in the ring. And she was on the offense a pretty good amount of the time, and she had to have Santana Garrett carry the match.
Yeah, and you make a good point. I don't remember if it was Triple H or somebody else. It was probably Triple H, but somebody said something a while back. Oh, it was actually Triple H when he did his Facebook Live interview after the end. Yeah, after Takeover the End, and he kind of was talking about how they really are turning a new chapter, and you're going to see some interesting new things. And he said, if you knew some of the things I know, you wouldn't think, people leaving the roster is a big deal, because.
And I don't disagree with that.
Right.
I just think they've presented it on TV so that
Correct.
now
it's not. We don't see it yet at all.
Yeah. Now all the girls are gone except for the two.
Right.
Like the two on top, and everybody else is a relatively unknown 2 to 5 total matches on TV kind of talent. Like they did not do enough to really bring up the newer people.
Yeah, and he implied that it was something. He basically he didn't out and out say it, so this could just be wishful thinking for me. But it sounded like he was saying we've got some new women on the horizon that are going to just blow your mind. So
Like I don't
so
even
we'll
think
see.
that the hell is her name? And Nikki, like I couldn't even remember her name. I'm so down on this division.
Nikki
I don't
Storm.
even. Nikki Storm is even that kind of talent to really be like, wow, this women's division didn't miss a beat.
She is the best in the galaxy, though.
The best in the galaxy, and that's what I'm saying. Like her best in the galaxy title can't even keep this division afloat. And now you look at it, and like, there's the reason why Bayley wasn't drafted. There's a reason why Bayley didn't leave, and they left Carmella there.
Right.
Like they took the B+, B- players out and left your A+, A+ player to come up with all the incompletes and D's that they have on the horizon so far.
Yeah.
And it's they've got to get people to fill that gap. And I don't know where the hell it's coming from.
Yeah,
like,
and I almost feel like Alexa could have been your top.
I think she should have gotten a run before she went to SmackDown.
Right. She could have.
Really
she could have been that, but
even losing.
Yeah, but I suspect that was actually that was probably a hard decision, because it's like, well, she can have a run here, but she really deserves to get paid more because of, I mean, she hasn't just paid her dues,
and like
she's actually really crazy good, and we need really crazy good on SmackDown with Becky, So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, listen,
that seems like a rock and a hard place type thing.
They took Alexa and they took Carmella to leave Bayley there. They weren't just going to like, that's like the whole planning of the managing of the rosters of there still needs to be an NXT women's division. And everyone that's going to cry because Bayley hasn't been called up since WrestleMania. Well, what if Bayley was not in NXT? Where would your women's division be?
Yeah, who are you?
You'd have a champion that really can't fight anybody because nobody's even at the experience level or talent.
Yeah, who are you rooting for to actually take on Asuka, and who does Asuka fight at what is probably considered their WrestleMania? Yeah, Brooklyn is pretty much the WrestleMania of NXT. Despite it not being on WrestleMania weekend, it's just
because of the show that they had last year, it just made a name for itself, and there it is.
Yeah.
Now, Asuka beats Bayley at TakeOver, and Bayley finally comes to the main roster. It's like, well, Asuka's going to be one of those champions that never fights, and then like you just have just a series of women's matches of just people who you finally get someone deserving of it, or Asuka only has like TV matches against Liv Morgan or something. And because Asuka's wrestling all these people at house shows, like she's not wrestling, but she's not defending the title on TV or at the show.
It's kind of a throwback to something you said a while back when we saw Asuka really let loose, mainly in the Dana match. It was, holy crap, who's going to keep up with her?
Who's going to keep up with her? And Dana Brooke did a lot of, and that's why I started to like Dana Brooke, because she transition to transition, she was there.
Yeah.
But
and injured, by the way. I still can't get over that. Like
alleged, like we still like, it's so weird. I mean, we talk about this before,
how kayfabe
but it's like,
is it?
She got in trouble for kayfabing the injury or not kayfabing. Like, I don't even know what the whole story is, but something happened on Breaking Ground with that injury. That's a tape show. That's an edited post-produced show, by the way. Something happened on Breaking Ground that let loose something that broke kayfabe about her injury, and then there's all those cosmetic enhancements that she may or may not have gotten after the fact. It's just a weird situation. I don't even know if she was hurt.
Yeah,
honestly, when I think about it.
Yeah, how real was it?
How real was it? I mean, because she was training,
but
she was running, she was doing all this stuff, but she wrestled
still,
the match.
She kept up with Asuka, and the only person really who's done that, I mean, the Nia Jax match was amazing, but Bayley is really the only person who you can say has like kept up with Asuka from a pure cardio standpoint outside of Dana. So it's you're right. Like who does Asuka fight besides Bailey right now? And then there's the question of, well, what do you do after that? Something's got to happen and quick. So maybe they start having battle royals. Maybe they have a tournament. That's one way you could do it. You could have a tournament.
But it's not even presenting a number one contender. It's having somebody who's a legitimate number one contender.
Oh, I know.
Not even
but that's what I'm saying. Like a battle royal or a tournament or both, you can start to build a character that, and maybe it is somebody you bring in from the outside, like Santana Garrett or Athena or.
Well, Athena's there already. I don't know what her deal is. I don't know why she was never called,
or
put
maybe,
on TV yet.
Or maybe they're working on, Tessa.
An NXT Galaxy Championship.
Yeah, or Tessa, or maybe it's Nikki. Who knows? So,
well, Tessa's not even employed either, right?
She's not, but maybe they're working on
Rachel
it. But Rachel
Ellering is, I think, right?
See, I don't know. I don't know
it's
which
weird
one's
how
which.
They do that because they don't really.
Yeah, I mean, I do know which one's which. That's not what I'm saying. And by the way, apparently they've had knockdown, drag out, like unbelievably good matches on Shimmer. Like Ellering and Blanchard have had just crazy, insanely good matches where they're like, Stone Cold and The Rock. Like just beating the crap out of each other matches.
I'm pretty up to date on Shimmer. I must have missed that.
It was 34 or 35.
They're up to like 70.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Shine might be on 34 and 35.
Maybe it was Shine.
I don't watch Shine that much.
Maybe it was Shine, but yeah, there's something, and like Twitter was blowing up about it for a little while. The night it aired on whatever that what is it? That
Wrestle World Network.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. But anyway, so maybe that's what you do is you bring someone who's sort of the daughter of a veteran who brings some pedigree. Maybe that's how you build it, and they actually sign them or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's how you do it.
But it's still it's not about the name. It's not about the title of number one contender. It's actually being somebody worthy in the ring to make matches look good.
But that's what I'm saying is maybe that I'm saying from a character standpoint, you have the name to back them up, especially with Ellering because you've got Paul walking around NXT now.
But I mean, she doesn't fit. Like it's almost like they wouldn't use her just to preserve Paul's character,
right? Yeah.
How could she be related to him if he's the most evil person ever?
Sure.
And she's this Summer Rae wannabe. Is that Tessa? I forget who wore what, but.
No, but with you're talking about with the boob window. That's Tessa. But speaking of Tessa and not the boob window, there's also a fringe benefit to Tessa finally signing on the dotted line, and it's her boyfriend,
Ricochet.
Yeah.
That's
a fringe benefit.
That's never gone hand in hand. Velvet Sky's not in WWE, and she's dating Bubba Ray Dudley.
That's a different story, though. It's not. That's different. But there's Tessa. There's that connection. There's also the fact that
Ricochet and not sign Tessa Blanchard. Then, if that's the case,
well, but there's
also nothing stopping him from doing that.
There's not. But going back to the women's division, we need Tessa Blanchard from what I'm seeing. But
we need Liv Morgan to live up with what we think Liv Morgan could be.
Yeah.
And we've made up her career.
Sure.
We've already put her in the Hall of Fame.
But
she's definitely in the GnWC Hall of Fame.
The girls have sold her as that. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, we've seen her in losing efforts do one or two moves and we're done, sold.
Yeah, that's it.
She's like the greatest person ever. Yeah. Why is she not on TV?
Women's champ.
I demand she be on TV.
Women's champ right now.
Right.
Women's champ of the main roster right now from NXT.
Right. And then there's the Galaxy, World Galaxy Champion of the world.
Yeah, with Nikki
Storm. So we have a lot of people in reserve who I have a lot of faith in to be the best. But fans have not been introduced to them in a
Yeah.
way that they can be on TV like after Takeover and be like, just continue the women's division. It's got to be like, it's like a full out like Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo reset after Takeover. It's like, okay, Asuka's the champion, and then now we have these 8 girls in the division. You've seen a couple, 4 of them before, and here's the new women's division. It's the new women's NXT era.
Well, one thing with Nikki Glencross, as they're calling her, we have seen her from a social media standpoint. So, and she was in character from a social media standpoint. So maybe that's telling. Maybe they were telegraphing that a little bit, that maybe she is the next one on the horizon, and we'll see a debut here soon. Because
let's put Sarah Stock and Sarah Del Rey in the ring until we produce more stars. How about that?
Do you think anybody would have a problem with that?
I think absolutely nobody would have a problem with that.
I think people would be like, wait. Why doesn't she just wrestle all the time?
My buddy Sarah Stock goes in the ring, and I'm just all like, Santana who?
Well, we haven't really touched on CWC that much.
Month. She remembered my name 6 months after the fact.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. She had a dog named Larry. That's why.
I'm like, because I
really
brought up the Lucha magazine I was in with her, the Spanish one, and I'm like, oh, can you sign that? And she looks like the picture, and she looks up at me. She's like, Larry, right? And I'm like, I love you.
Yeah.
will you marry me? And stuff like that. And she's just like, $5. I'm like, here you go.
Well, as I was saying, we haven't really touched on CWC that much. We talked about we mentioned a couple people. Yeah, Tony Nese, thank you. And
the Brian Kendrick.
The Brian Kendrick was great. To me, it wasn't quite as exciting as the shows have been before, but I know it's building to something. So it's kind of like SmackDown, where it's just like, I felt kind of flat, but there's plenty there. With CWC, there's plenty more to come. Yeah,
it was the first of everything, exactly. And you had to follow Raw.
Yeah, really shouldn't have been that flat. But
the Brian Kendrick is your only heel. Well, there's other heels, but he's like the heel. He's like the final 4 heel. Has to be.
He's the dirty guy. So
right.
So we'll see.
So you knew there was going to be one. It's him.
Yeah.
Even though
especially
your
since we've had. Yeah, especially since we've had all these baby faces going over when the heels have kind of stolen the show before now. So it's kind of nice that we've got a real heel in the mix at this point, and it's a guy who has been around the business long enough to actually play the heel perfectly. So, well, then he would take the heel, right?
I think he's playing up heel. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that way. So So this was a night of heels, and the crowd was kind of flat, and just it's sort of a flat show. But like you said,
yeah, it wasn't
the more egregious thing this week was SmackDown being way too flat for it being the debut show of the brand split. But
again, I think SmackDown did a lot of good things.
Correct.
But it just they just didn't have the utility, the hardware, and the talent to do like the over the top things.
Sure.
They could only do so much without
but we'll see,
additional championships and stuff.
But we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do next week, because like I said, maybe the idea was, well, we don't want to just completely mimic Raw, because then it just makes SmackDown, Raw light, Raw with one less hour. So we don't want to introduce new titles right after they introduced a new title. So maybe we actually see something next week in that regard. Maybe American Alpha has their debut. So this is saying it just to say it. Maybe American Alpha has their debut, and Shane and Brian come out and say, you know what? We're not going to just crown you champions like they do over on the other show, or just put you in a title match like they do on the other show. But because of what you just did and how exciting that match was, we're creating a title for our tag team division, and the tournament starts next week. So it gives people a reason.
I would like them to do that at Backlash. So that's why I brought it up before. Like, Raw's doing we're bringing in the title this month. let SmackDown bring in the tag title next month, and then let Raw do the cruiserweight title the month after that, and just kind of like stagger everything.
Okay.
But
Fair
I
enough.
agree because American Alpha is so good and the crowd's into
And
it so
dynamic.
much that
Yep.
all of a sudden Shane and Daniel Bryan have the on-camera realization that, hey, we've got the best tag team in the world. We should have a tag team championship.
Yeah. There you go.
But
So
there you go.
with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it because we have gone long. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke. Take it away, Larry.
And I'm Andy Rooney, and I'm going to go paint a picture of Santana Garrett in 4 colors like a Campbell soup can. There's Andy Rooney. I've heard it both ways. Doesn't matter. I'm gone. Bye. Oh, my computer.